Welcome to the Manx Theatre Podcast.
Come on to the theatre.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 24 of the Manx Theatre Podcast with me, Neil Callin. In the last episode, we got a little bit carried away with the excitement of our second birthday and referred to it as episode 24 throughout the whole episode, when actually it was only episode 23. However, this really is episode 24, so sit back and enjoy. Thank you to everyone who's listened to our previous episodes. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome along and thanks for joining us. In this podcast, we like to try and keep you up to date with what's going on in theatre on the Isle of Man and chat to the cast and creators of upcoming shows to find out a little bit more about the shows and the people behind them. You can still listen to all of our previous episodes through all the usual podcast outlets and at manxradio.com/podcasts. Whilst you're there, make sure to subscribe, give us a like, rate and leave a little review and share with all your friends. You can also keep up to date with what's going on by following Manx Theatre Podcast on Facebook and Instagram and at Manx Theatre Pod on Twitter. Now, before I go any further, I have to take a moment to say a special hello to our very own superfan, Mandy Griffin, who's probably listening to this right now while she's taking her dog Fernando out for a walk.
You're listening to the Manx Theatre Podcast with Neil Callin.
So, I am joined here in the studio today by Alex Armstrong and Charlie Williams, who are here to launch their brand new theatre company and tell us all about their plans and an upcoming production. Alex, Charlie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much
for having
Neil.
us.
Yeah.
So, chaps, welcome along. Tell us all about your exciting new venture that you've got coming along.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an exclusive, I suppose, of the first person we're speaking to about it. Charlie and I are launching a theatre company.
We are indeed.
Yeah, this all started, I don't know, probably just over a year ago now.
Yeah, I think it started as many good or bad ideas do over a pint in a pub.
Yes.
I turned around to Alex and said, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd really like to start a theatre company. And was waiting for kind of, okay, yeah, whatever. And Alex just went, so do I. And we're just going, oh, okay, are we actually going to do this
What
then?
do we do now?
And yeah, really over the last couple of years, well, year and a bit, the idea's kind of snowballed, and we have an actual plan in place here, and we both have a kind of a combined objective as to what we're wanting to get out of it, and you know, we're not just doing something ad hoc. We actually have a good idea, and yeah, we kind of ran it from there, really.
Yeah, I think we sort of thought that was a little bit of a gap in the market, and certainly something that we both have an interest in ourselves. Is the sort of more classic straight play. And we sort of noticed that there seems to be a little bit of a lack of Shakespeare on the island.
Oh, there's a severe lack of Shakespeare on the island.
And so we thought, well, we're both sort of interested in Shakespeare's work, and thought, well, let's give this a go. Let's see how it goes and see if there's interest. We spoke to a few people and sort of said, you know, this is what we're thinking. If we were to do it, you know, would you be interested in being involved or coming and watching? And there was lots of positive comments, so we thought, right, well, we better do it now then.
Yeah, because I was quite surprised, because when I'd spoken to other actors, because Alex and I both come from different approaches, which is again something that we thought would be really good. I come from the kind of performance side, acting side. Alex from the production and backstage and technical side. And I'd spoken to other actors, and you often kind of had this conversation where you went, oh, well, why we should maybe do Shakespeare? Why don't we try this? And you go, oh, yeah, no, it's a good idea, but you don't really get the audiences on the Isle of Man. I'm thinking, you don't get the audiences. I've seen companies come over from England and they do really well. And I've seen some Manx companies occasionally do it and they do really well. And I'm thinking, that doesn't really wash with me. I don't get that. And then the main one that I really didn't get was sometimes people would go, well, there's not really local talent to do Shakespeare. And I was kind of looking at them and go, what are you talking about? You know, I've been to loads of plays and musicals, and you're thinking, these guys are really, really good and this is amazing. And they go, yeah, there's not really, because it's quite highbrow. And so I'm thinking, no, it's not. Have you ever seen, you know, if you do it right, it's never done. And you kind of met this a little from some people, not everybody. From some people, you met a little bit of a wall. And I kind of was talking to Alex about this. We said, oh, why is that? That's not a thing. So, I mean, we're not looking. I think Shakespeare's the main thing that we're looking at the moment. Yeah. Generally speaking, down the line, you know, we're not trying to become the Isle of Man RSC or anything. It's not like we're going to build a theatre and we're just doing Shakespeare and that's it. It's a case of, we thought that's something that can really develop. That's something that people, I think, would enjoy, but also other classic theatre productions, because I definitely don't come from albeit I am now in one, but I don't come from a musical sort of background. And there are some fantastic musical production companies and theatre groups over here that do amazing work every year. I think that market is definitely, to a certain degree, cornered. You know,
Yes.
you've got the group to go.
It's pretty full, isn't
exactly.
it? Yeah.
You know, that massive. We'd never be able to compete there. But in terms of professional approach, acting troupes that really kind of are able to put together productions of high quality, of really good plays, we thought, well, there is an element there. You know, there are some really good ones over here, but there is an element there where we think we can slot in, and fill a niche and make good productions.
Brilliant. I mean, I know for many years, I think the only real Shakespeare that's been done on the island is any of the touring companies that come across and they perform at either Russian Abbey or Peel Castle or wherever around the island. Yeah. And I think the last production that was an on-island cast that I can think of was, it must be early 2000s. I think the Arts Council did an all-island play and they did a version of The Winter's Tale. But that's that's like nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. You know, I've seen some great cracking productions by some of the UK companies who come over, and we're not trying to do some sort of let's just make it Manx and get rid of them and corner the market and no one else is going to come over. But it was more a case of I'd like to give Manx actors and production crew the opportunity to do the plays themselves rather than just see them and think, oh, I'd like to do that, but I'd do it slightly differently, or there's not the opportunity for me to do Hamlet or Macbeth, or these big shows that for a lot of actors are kind of the pinnacle they want to do. At some point they want to go, I want to done Hamlet, that's it, I can die happy.
There's a Lear in everyone.
Exactly. Well, exactly, and you're kind of going, well, why can't we do that? Well, let's do eyebrow, and even Manx actors aren't good enough. You're thinking, oh god, so we germinated the idea and are now plunging deep into the waters of the Manx theatre community.
Right. So what's the production then that you've got lined up? What's going to be your first one?
So our first production is Much Ado About Nothing, which it's a good one to start on. I think
it's one of my favourites.
Yeah, definitely. And we're very, very fortunate to have the excellent David Dawson on board with us.
Oh, brilliant!
So David is going to be directing for us, and again, when we were speaking to him about this, and he just jumped on board straight away and said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great plan. I want to be involved in this."
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
I think what's surprising is the number of people who've actually, when we tell them the idea we've come up with and what we're doing, they go, "That's great. We agree with you entirely. There's not enough." And I'm thinking, why has nobody done this? There's something we're missing here. There's some terrible risk that everyone's going, "Yes, you do it first." But no, we thought Much Ado because it's a good all-round Shakespeare play. It's not just tragedy. It's not just comedy. It's not just a romance. It's a bit of everything, and it's one that people know, and it's accessible. And we thought for a first one to get our feet off the ground and show, look, we can do this, and it's going to be good to get the Manx audience's trust. We went, well, let's do one that people know that is good, that's always well received. We hope, and
most people know the story too, as well.
Most people know the story, and it's got a bit of something for everybody. I think.
Brilliant. The all-important question then, when is it on?
So we've not yet firmed up dates completely, but we're looking at Easter of next year. So it's just a case of liaising with the theatre and working out when we can slot it in and fitting around other sort of busy schedules and other shows that are going on at the same time. But we're going to the King's Court Theatre. So we thought it's a nice intimate space. I think it works very well with the production, and it just offers the audiences and the Manx public something different, somewhere else to go. And of course, the King's Court Theatre is very well known at the moment for its live streaming of National Theatre and some RSC stuff as well. And hopefully those existing audiences will come and support us as well.
And see the live version.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Hopefully there's not a screening on at the same time.
That would be a bit awkward.
Yes.
Better check through the RSC, make sure there's no screenings of Much Ado next year.
Yes.
Oh, well, if it is, ours will be better.
Ours will be better, yes.
Let's be real, be in the room, yes.
Smell the actors.
So the company then, the company name is Parodos Theatre Company.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the meaning behind the name? Where did it come from?
We spent a long time mulling over the name, many a coffee, and a meeting was had where we you have a selection of different names, and we originally were thinking, well, we'll do something very local, very Manx, the Manx Shakespeare thing or the Manx drama, and then we looked at everything. We went, everyone has a really Manx, Manx Ops, DCU, they've all got, a lot of them have Manx Three Legs Productions and things. We thought a lot of them have taken the good names for local things, and we went, would we want to? And then we thought, well, why don't we? We're doing classic plays. Let's take it right back to the original classics, which is Greek theatre. That's the classics. So we went and the Parodos, it's spelled DOS, not DAS. Sorry, ODOS, not ADOS. Yes. I can't even spell. There we go. Come and see our productions, ladies and gentlemen. But we, that was the chorus entrance. It was the entrance the chorus would come into a Greek theatre. And we thought, well, that's good. We're arriving. This is what we'll do. It's classic. It's good, and it's a good kind of punchy name. And it's one that you don't have to. It's kind of a bit different. We wanted something that's a bit different, a bit unique, and make people go, oh, that's
bit of symbology linked to it as well.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. So is the intention then to do sort of a majority of Shakespeare, but with a few other sort of classics thrown in along the way?
I think that's probably the plan to start with.
Yeah.
There's a good repertoire there that we can tap into, and if we have the audiences that are supporting us and that they're wanting it, then absolutely, we're happy to be producing something that we both love ourselves, and if there's audiences there, then we'll give it to them. If we can then branch out and look at other little bits and pieces, then maybe we will.
Yeah.
And hopefully our audiences will sort of be coming to us at some point and saying, we'd really like you to do this. And we'll have a little think about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole thing is, we're open to a lot of that. We've identified the niche. And we've said that's the lane. That's where we're kind of playing in at the moment. But in terms of saying, we're not saying we're just going to do Shakespeare. There will be a lot of Shakespeare that we do, and we think that there's opportunities to do a lot of Shakespeare, and we want to do a lot. But if, there's audiences, it might be we go, well, we can do a couple of productions a year, and we'll do Shakespeare and, an interpretation of a literary classic or something else, and give that kind of diversity of different types of theatre to the island, to the Manx audiences, who I think are a lot more theatre savvy than people give them credit.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
There's a couple of really sort of interesting things out there. I mean, personally, I'm a great fan of Inside Number 9.
Yes.
And if we could stage a couple of those live, I think that'd be fantastic. But that might be a bit of a pipe dream. Yeah, I think once we have a show under our belt and maybe have
we're gonna have a box of pipe
reputation,
dreams.
then we can reach out to Steve Pemberton and the BBC. And,
the first episode of the most recent series was all the Commedia dell'arte, wasn't it? So
yes,
that's
it
fantastic.
Yeah.
And then, you've got One Man, Two Governors. That's based on the same Commedia dell'arte as well. So there's opportunities there for the future for things like that as well.
I mean, there's loads of really well known, good level plays that just don't get done over here, at the Gaiety, and you're thinking, or anywhere, and you're thinking, there's loads of opportunity here for. I mean, the Mousetrap that Bocker and Snell did is a prime example of a classic play that a lot of people had heard of. That when it came over, loads of people went to see because they've always want, they can't get over to London to see it, or they haven't had the opportunity. And when you say, well, we'll put it on here, people go, great. If we're able to do it, then we'll do it.
I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we had To Kill a Mockingbird, and I was down watching that, and the place was absolutely packed.
Yeah.
It was fantastic to see. I mean, when you look at the Easter Festival of Plays every year, it's a shame how empty the place can be some nights, and you're thinking some of these plays are fantastic, and people have travelled over to the island to put them on, and they really deserve a much better audience. But I know, I think some of these big productions, and like with To Kill a Mockingbird, it was so great to see the place so full with just, I guess, a high profile play, I suppose.
Yeah,
really.
definitely.
Brilliant. Right, so let's get to know a little bit about you guys
and
where you've come from. So how did you both get started, actually? What sort of got you into theatre in the first place?
I'm probably the earliest starter, I would say. Alex and I have known each other since primary school, so we're very long-term best friends. And but
there was a hesitation.
There was a hesitation.
Best friends. Yeah.
We're the best closest. And that's ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of Parodos Theatre Company. I was doing theatre bits and pieces from when I was very young. I think the first, I'm sure we'll get to your fun questions, but from the first Gaiety production I did was when I was 8 years old. I was a Workhouse Boy in Oliver Twist, and then I'd done shows at school, and I up until probably just before university I went, I want to be an actor. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And then so I'd been doing plays for ages, and then stopped. I kind of did a lot of theatre, and then did, when I was younger, then early teens, did some of the Guild, and then went, I did some TV presenting things at school, like the IT department did them, and then I did a couple for the Almond government. I went, now I'm going to be a TV presenter, and then the acting's not working out, I'm going to be a TV presenter, and then just didn't do anything. And then after 10 years of not doing any acting at all, at 23, somebody said, Parker and Snell are looking for someone to be in the Mousetrap. You sort of fit the bill. Just go along and speak to Carl Parker, and there's an even audition. You just went, "We just need somebody," and they did. Well, I say that they did look at me, and they went, "Oh yeah," and they kind of caught the bug again. So I've been acting for many a year, and I've really grabbed back onto it with great gusto.
Brilliant. I mean, I was the same. I was full in it from sort of about 12, 13, and then I got sort of into my late teens, started playing rugby, and kind of drifted away for a few years.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the rugby season and the rehearsal season for like the Ops and the DCU shows with the same one. And kind of like, I'm really enjoying my rugby and I'm really enjoying my theatre. What I don't want is an injury mid-February. It's really going to affect me doing the show. So I then gave up the rugby and then came back to theatre full time. But I think my body was also telling me it was time to give up the rugby as well. So what's the first role? What was your first role then?
My first role. Well, my first role at the Gaiety was a workhouse boy in Oliver Twist. My first role. Oh God, probably. I mean, back in Sunday school, I think I was Noah when I was, about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. The classic interpretation. And the animals have gone onto the boat. That sort of thing. and then a nativity. I think I was. You do. Obviously, everyone's done that second star from the right at the back sort of role when you're in reception. Here's a tambourine and. But then kind of started doing more leading roles in school productions and narration roles and things like that, and there really kind of got the bug. And then you got teachers who kind of encourage you and go, well, you're quite good at this. They're doing a production of this at the Gaiety. Why don't you go and audition? And the usual kind of story. I think a lot of the local acting community have had, the same sort of stories. So, yeah, I'd probably say something like that was a very first role. Some school nativity production.
What about you, Alex? How did you get started?
So I was roped into helping at a school production of 13 the Musical back at St Ninian's School many years ago now. And I was just sort of helping hand, and towards the end of it I actually quite enjoyed it. And I'd always enjoyed theatre beforehand and going and actually watching. And it was Rachel Withington, who has her own dance school, Dancers Bar, who said, "You seem to be enjoying this. Do you want to come and help out at a Gaiety show?" And I sort of hesitant, "Oh, okay then." And that was Laxey Primary School's production of Bugsy Malone.
Oh wow!
So I went down and helped crew that, and I think just caught the bug from there really, and sort of then signed myself up to lots of things and was doing all sorts of productions with all sorts of different people. I did some shows with Manx Ops, and I got sort of involved in with the Youth Arts Centre when they were doing Rent back in 2011, 2012. Yeah. So I was sort of had my first titled role then as deputy stage manager for the first production, and then when we came back a year later, I was stage manager. And I think I caught the bug from there, and I was doing little bits and pieces of sort of technical work. With Villa Marina and doing some live music events as well, and sort of fell in love with it and did lots of bits.
So you've always had more of an affinity to the dark side then, rather than
definitely
the shiny.
Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why. I have done a little bit of acting before, and in my day job I stand up and advocate, stand in front of court, which is a performance in itself. But now I've always preferred the sort of logistical and practical side of backstage and thinking through problems and running things that way.
It was. I've never actually told him this. I'm going to tell him on live air. But Alex was part of the reason why I suddenly started getting the bug again to get back into theatre, because I hadn't acted for a while, and Alex suddenly started doing all of these shows. And I'm in the Gaiety to do this, and I'm in the Gaiety to do that. I'm thinking, I miss the Gaiety. I miss the smell. I miss the theatre. I miss that. And so I was looking, and it was happen chance when I did Mousetrap and things that they came along, but I was looking for something because I'm thinking I'm starting to get that bug back again. I'm starting to really want to get
that
back.
FOMO,
tread the boards again and get back on stage.
And it's that old adage, isn't it? It's the cast. It's the big happy family, and there's a great group of people that you see show from show, and then there's some people that certainly like on the tech side of things that you won't see when you're in rehearsal week after week after week. But then when you get back into the theatre again, and you're there and you see Seamus and you see Ted and the other guys that always come down and work backstage on every show. It's like, oh, it's back again.
And it's almost like you've never been apart.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got that it's just a magical place, isn't it? It sort of reunites everybody, and
it's a beautiful theatre. And I forgot that in a way. You kind of, and every time I go in, even when I'm just watching performances, I get this almost a rush, and you're thinking, oh, I love this, and this is great, and I think it's really good having that space, because it actually, in a way, makes you support your fellow actors and the other companies more in a way, because you're going, it's good to see somebody really nail the show in that space. You're going, that's brilliant. That's what this theatre was made for, and it's just awesome to see.
And I mean, obviously, I know so many people that are involved with plays and shows on the island, and it's so nice to go and watch a show, and you suddenly stop looking at your mate Tony on stage, and you're seeing the characters, and you get drawn into the story, and you're thinking, oh, this is great.
But there's so many. The other thing is as well is there's actually so many spaces on the island that are amazing for shows. We've got a lot of good theatre spaces from the smaller societies that are doing them in, church halls and town halls down south and places. They're still great. You go in them sometimes, you think, this is a lot more set up for this than I thought it would be. There's quite a lot of tech in them.
And the Centenary Centre at Peel is great now.
Oh
as well.
They're fabulous. And Ballakermean Studio Theatre and King's Court Theatre, and you go to all of these places and you're thinking, and then we've got such beautiful outdoor spaces for theatre as well. I think they need, that's one thing that we started talking about was, we need to do more, use the spaces more. We really want to get theatre out there to the different areas of the Isle of Man, as well as the beautiful Gator Theatre is everywhere you possibly can, and it's just growing, in my view. I think theatre over here. Outdoor
performance, Scream Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah, indeed. There we go. Take a note. We've got the book, Alec. Put it down. Hamlet, the father screaming from the battlements.
It was David was quite keen when we first started talking to David about this. He was quite keen on staging it on the back of a.
We nearly did as well. We nearly did, because and we were like, let's just rein ourselves in slightly first. Let's just let's do a safe space where we can slightly control the environment for our first show before we go and do something on the road. But it's definitely something we've got ideas for.
Yeah, I had a great idea for a travelling company and using a big crate container, but I'll tell you about that later. Would you share it with the world?
Well, there we go. We're announcing now. Neil is our technical advisor.
So, I guess over the years, then, what's been the favourite role that you've played?
I think my favourite role was Parker and Sell did a production of The Importance of Being Earnest a couple of years ago, and I played Algernon Moncrief, and it was The Importance of Being Earnest is a play I've always wanted to do for a long time, and when Carl said, we're thinking of you for this role, I was like, yes. I was just like, yes. A bit cool. Maybe, I don't know, I'll see what I'm doing. Thinking I'm not doing anything. I'm definitely doing it. And I really enjoyed that. It's also actually the role I had my most near-death experience on stage with, where I had to jump over a chaise longue that we had on the stage, and every night I'd done it was fine, and then near the end of the run, I jumped, caught my toe on the edge of it, went forward right to the edge of the band pit nearly, stopped myself, and I felt the whole audience going to go like that, waiting like, we're about to watch this man break many, many bones. And then just looked at John Walker, who was playing Ernest, and we just kind of looking at each other going, okay, we're okay, everyone's okay, and just crack on. But no, I think that's my favourite role. Brilliant.
I mean, that reminds me, I was watching the Friends reunion the other night on Sky.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a clip where it was around, there was an argument between Joey and Chandler about a particular chair. And they were regaling the story of this, and they'd done 3 takes or 4 takes, and for whatever reason they decided to go for a 5th one. And as he kind of ran and jumped over the table to land on the chair, he kind of caught his toe and landed on the shoulder and on the chair and dislocated his shoulder.
Yeah.
Thinking,
I saw that.
And then they had to write it into the next episode that Joey had an accident. And for the next 3 episodes, his arm was in the sling.
Thankfully, never had. I was having this discussion. It was Christine Wilde's Wizard of Oz. We were talking with a couple of technical guys about show stops. I've fortunately never had to stop a show because of somebody sort of falling over and injuring themselves. And
touch
I think it breaks the immersion if you're doing like a Victorian play and 3 St John ambulance members come on in bright high vis. Who are they? Hello.
We need to run on stage and give this man first aid. Quick, we'll just put this period costume on first.
I did pantomime with Dreamstar a couple of times, and this is must be about 15, 16 years ago now. And we did Robinson Crusoe, and I was Man Friday.
Oh, yes.
With a spray tan and a wig that you probably couldn't do today. 15 years ago, it was just about acceptable. Yeah. So I'm barefoot running around on the stage, and I think we were using the traps as well. And the trap on stage right, the top of it was slightly loose, and I'd come running across as part of the dance routine and took the skin off the top of my toe. But 25 seconds into a 3.5 minute dance routine, so they had to finish the whole routine and then get off stage, take my toe back up and crack on again.
You were just wiping blood across the stage.
just trying not to. Just trying not to bleed too much.
People in the audience, this is a really dark version of this play.
I think that trap top is still a little bit wobbly.
Noted.
I guess favourite show then that you've been involved in, Alex?
I think it's going to have to be Rent back in 2012. So it was my first proper sort of big scale Gaiety production as stage manager, and that show was just fantastic. And I love the music in that show so much. I love the story behind it, and it was just a magical experience. And I will never forget that show. Even the ones I've done since, I've been involved in some fantastic productions since then. But that one, at sort of the age of 17, 18, whatever I was at the time, it was just a fantastic production, and I learned so much from it.
Yeah,
and it really sort of then skyrocketed me to then do all these other shows with all these other production companies following that.
And I think it was a repeat performance, wasn't it? Because it was from the Youth Arts Centre originally, and they'd done it a year or two beforehand.
Yeah.
And then I became friends with quite a few of them in between, because they'd come on to do a Manx operatic show.
Yeah.
And then when they said that they were doing it again next year at the Gate, I was like, this is brilliant. And it was in the week that I was on holiday and off the island. So I didn't get to see it, unfortunately. But I love Rent's up there with as one of my favourite shows.
Yeah.
So.
And I think just returning it that 2 years later, we were so close knit as a little family, having run this show, all of us at a sort of quite young age, and had been given an awful lot of sort of free rein of direction of how we wanted to do things. So when we then got back into the theatre, it was just going back to see your family again. Yeah. And it was for the most part all the same people. And I'm still incredibly close to all of them now still.
Brilliant. Okay then, here's an interesting one. Which is the part that you were born to play?
I found this very difficult to answer.
Yeah.
I found this very difficult. I got to the stage where I'm going, who's most because it's different from who you most want to play. You've got to look at yourself really and go, no, I'm not like them at all. You're going, James Bond is the part I was most born to play. And then you sat there and my wife's looking at me going, you're not James Bond. Yeah, okay, fine.
You're Mr. Bean. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Bean is what I'm saying. No, I kind of went with I'm going to go with a slight Shakespeare theme here. So I went with Horatio from Hamlet. I think is very similar to me. Kind of a very loyal friend. Survives, and I was kind of I like that, but then I also went, but there's a bit of a kooky sort of kind of flavour to me as well, a bit of a crazy thing. So I went Bert from Mary Poppins for a bit of a kind of high cheeky chaffy sort of smiley face.
All right, Mary Poppins.
All right, Mary Poppins, and then. The Mad Hatter as well. I think it's just a kind of fusion of the three, really. Just can throw it all together.
Flavour of Charlie's personality there.
Yes, just the many colours of my personality, to be honest. I really struggled with that one.
Yeah. Alex, how about you?
Yeah, I struggled as well, to the extent that I had to go and ask some people in the office and see if they could come up with some suggestions for me. And thanks to Jessica McManus of DQ and of DCU, Jess thought that the best role for me would be Leopold Bloom from the producers, because whilst I am an advocate, I'm just desperate to be a producer. And hopefully my employer isn't listening. I do enjoy my job.
Are you going to sing the song now?
I want to be a producer.
Yes.
No.
But then your employer is Mark Doherty, so
yes, I think he's quite understanding of my theatre dreams.
Of all the employers, yes, he is probably the most.
I think DQ are going to start. We're going to start doing our own theatre production company soon. And
hang on a minute.
There's enough of us in from a whole different variety of on stage, off stage.
You should just start doing your own theatre shows. Law the music.
We'll do them in the office. Yeah, well, yes.
A bit of Chicago, but the razzle dazzle.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, this next was probably more applicable to Charlie than Alex, but what's the best and or worst costume that you've ever had to wear?
I've got the same costume for this answer. So
do you know that comes up so many times?
Yeah. So it was we did Alice in Wonderland a couple of years ago. A year, I can't remember. This coronavirus has thrown such a spin on
2021.
Yeah, so. I know. Thank you. Where am I? Your brain sort of forgets. Oh yeah, last year. Oh no, wait. Last year I was in my house, unable to leave. No. So a couple of years ago we did Alice in Wonderland, and I played the Mad Hatter, and the costume was amazing. Judith Fullerton Jude did the costume work, and she did a fantastic job. She did an amazing job. The makeup team was amazing. Best costume because it just was so fantastical and so well put together and stayed together, and you know, which with wearing a costume on stage sometimes is the high point. If it stays stitched together during the run, that's a big win, and I loved it. Also the worst costume though, because it was a quick change. I played Alice's father at the beginning of the role, so I'm basically me.
Yeah.
And then had about a 15 to 20 minute window to run off stage and get fully decked out, fully make-upped up, wigged up, hat on, everything. And it involved running up to the floor at the top of the theatre where the whole makeup team was, being sat in a chair. Two people would do my eyes, one person would do my face, and then Jude would come along with the wig and then pin it violently into my head.
Kind of staple it into place. Yeah,
basically staple gunning it into place every night. And there's I'm trying not to cry so I don't make the makeup run, because I thought, I don't want to come on stage and it look like the Mad Hatter's had some sort of breakdown, which probably he has. And what it looked, the final product was amazing, but the experience of having it put on at speed was slightly uncomfortable. So I'm going to put that as my best and worst.
Excellent. I think I can offer a little bit of an insight. I suppose I'm normally in show blacks, so they're quite comfortable for the most part. Although recently, towards the end of Wizard of Oz, there's this sort of unwritten rule that if the production allows, the stage manager will sort of dress up for the last performance. And I was quite adamant that I would do it, but I needed something that was practical.
Yeah.
And so, thanks to Jude again, I was dressed up as the Wicked Witch of the West. And I had a nice big long black dress on with the hat and a full face of green makeup and black teeth and everything else.
Isn't that the part you were born to play?
Well, perhaps it did confuse some of the younger members of the cast when they came into the wings, and there were two witches there.
Should you be on stage?
Yeah, but no, it was practical. So because it was all black, I could still run on stage and do a scene change.
Which
sort of floating green face.
My dress flew out as I was spinning this house round on stage.
Did you cackle as you left?
So yeah, maybe that was my best costume.
So I've actually been in a few productions over the years where the crew have been dressed. They've been put into costume because they've done scene changes in vision.
Yeah.
So I think one of the main ones of that was Sweeney Todd with the Manx Operatic Society. We had this big central sort of cube which turned around to be either the parlour at Mrs. Lovett's or it was the pie shop. Then on top was Sweeney's chair, and there was a staircase that took you up. And the mechanism was that as he pulled the lever on the chair, you slid down inside this cube. But sometimes it was needed in the middle of the stage, and sometimes it was pushed over to the side. And there was 4 crew that were dressed up like all the rest of the ensemble with the hats on and the shirts and whatever. And they just kind of sat at the side. And when it was time to move, they stood up, turned it around, and moved it to the middle, and moved it back out again, and just sort of wandered off.
That's a good gig for a free show, isn't it?
Yeah. Jesus Christ Superstar as well. I think some of the stage crew doubled as the Roman guards.
Yeah.
Certainly in the Manx Operatic version that was done about 15 years ago, so
yeah. I think it might have been done for Seven Brides, for Seven Brothers as well.
I mean it is done a lot. I think either get the cast to do it or dress them up. Yeah, I think it's the best way.
Yeah. All right, the next one is the interesting one, and this is one where people tend to have a little bit of difficulty with this. Although I think with the way that genders seem to be more fluid within shows now. I mean they tend to recast males as females and things like that. Certainly, like a lot of the Shakespeare ones these days, they've been taken, like they did Hamlet with Maxine Peake, didn't they? And things like that. So this is the part that you could play of the opposite gender.
I'm going to jump on the Shakespeare. I actually came to this very quickly, weirdly. This was easier than Which Are You Born to Play.
Wow.
I was like, I know exactly what I'm going with. I would be Lady Macbeth. I think it's a great part. You know, if it's done well, it's one of the most standout roles that Shakespeare wrote. I think you watch in Macbeth. I think really when you're watching the scenes between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, thinking, what a strong character, and a dangerous woman. It's and when they're played really well, you're going, that's made. So that's the part I really like to have a go at. If the roles were reversed. So I may well do one day. I may well just
Maybe.
again do the swap around.
Just completely
just swap it around.
Yeah.
Lady Macbeth is kind of the Macbeth character, and Macbeth is the scheming husband. So I don't know.
There was a great production. I think it was the National Theatre rather than the RSC, and they took the story of Midsummer Night's Dream, and they switched it around. So rather than Oberon tricking Titania, it was Titania that tricked Oberon, and Oberon then fell in love with Bottom. It was a fantastic production. It was brilliant. There's some great music in it as well. But yeah, so that's an interesting way of switching the roles around.
Yeah, no, it is. You can do a lot with them nowadays, and if it's done well, they're quite good. So that's mine. Who's yours, Alan? Is it The Wicked Witch of the West?
Well, it probably should be now. I really struggled with this one because obviously not being an actor, I sort of thought about, well, what role would I like to do if I was going to swap roles and go onto stage, and then what would I do if I was going into a female sort of role? If I was to go from stage backstage being to on stage, I think I would quite like to be Javert. I know that's a male role, but if I was to actually move jobs, then Javert, I think I would do that. I can't sing, but Javert.
Well, neither could Russell Crowe. Right?
Just have to be able to jump into a river.
And then if we went for the proper gender swap, I don't know why necessarily, but I have always quite liked the narrator in Joseph, and I know the narrator is normally a female role, and it's not always. But I do think there are some lovely pieces of music.
She has got some great songs there from the narrator.
So I think if I had to do the gender swap fully, I'd like to be the narrator for Joseph.
That's very good.
Brilliant. Okay, so like the last then of these sort of regular little questions that we like to ask is to do with our Spotify playlist. So we, back in July last year, so almost a year ago now, we set up a Spotify playlist, which was basically our own version of sort of the ultimate musical theatre playlist. Mm-hmm. So Neil and I each put 10 songs in to get it going, because who really wants to listen to a playlist of 3 songs?
Yes.
And then with each new guest that we've had on the podcast since then, they've added a song on themselves. So some of the highlights that we've got are Perry O'Day's choice. He was Being Alive from Company. We had Bethany McGee had the I Love You song from the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. It's never a quick show to pronounce that one. Lewis Kelly chose Waving Through a Window from Dear Evan Hansen. Tony Eccles chose When I Grow Up from Matilda. And Jonathan Slight chose Damned for All Time from Jesus Christ Superstar. Mm. And he also specified that it had to be the movie version. So, chaps, which songs have you chosen and why?
Well, I've just noticed from this list, had chosen the one I wanted to choose.
Oh, no.
Which I went onto the list and was like, oh, it's already there, which was Wait For It from Hamilton. It's a cracker of a song. It's my favourite. The crescendo build-up where he goes boom and the whole chorus is joining in. It completely... I mean, all of the songs in that production, to be honest, make you... I mean, I'm happy to admit, I saw it in London, which was massively special, and it was, an amazing production. And, I'm quite happy to admit on there, I did openly cry at the spoiler alert, when the son dies, in the song there, when they sing, you hold your child as close as you can, and I just wept in the theatre.
I've got 2 kids. Gone.
I know. I've just had my first, so now I'm definitely going to cry at it even more.
Yes.
But Wait For It was the one I there's always the show when you watch it and you go, I want to sing that. That's the one. If I could properly sing, if the dream version of you in your head, and I'm watching, going, that's the one I would want, because it's just awesome. The change of it. So you chose that one already, and I was kind of going, right. So.
Sorry, but it's my list. So.
I know. It's fair enough. Okay, fair enough. So then I got stuck on Hamilton in my head. I'm thinking of all these Hamilton songs, which I would go, Rumour It Happens, all of these ones. I'm thinking, but no, I'm going to try and do something different and try and go for something different. So I've actually gone for a slight cheat. I've gone for a movie musical.
Okay.
And I've gone for The Greatest Showman. Okay. And I've got From Now On from The Greatest Showman, which is not the one I think a lot of people would use. When you're saying The Greatest Showman, immediately you're thinking of This Is Me, and or the opening number. But From Now On, I really like. Again, that it's Hugh Jackman's character, P.T. Barnum's hit rock bottom. The cast all come in, and it's his singing, or the singing of the lead, which I really like. But it's mainly that boom, doop, boom, doop, boom, the drumming, and again the chorus kind of makes you shiver, and the hairs and builds, and they're harmonising on top of one another, the layering of the song, and then it just kills itself at the end where it just softens off, and they kind of almost whisper off, and you think, oh, that was a good song, and that was my favourite from that one. I mean, it was a close call between that and Other Side, which was obviously the two-hander with him and Zac Efron when they're in the bar and they're bouncing on the tables.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
And I thought that's really because that's done really well. But I went with From Now On because I thought, when it finally is allowed to be done on stage, in 80 years' time, when the license is cheap enough for the big Broadway to do it, to see, to hear that live of them all kind of banging their hands and layering it up and doing that, I thought that would be great. I love that. So that's what I went with. That's my choice.
Brilliant.
It's a good choice. It is a good choice.
Thank you.
Alex?
Oh, I had to think about this one, and I sort of came up with a list of 5. But I will only
Hang on a minute.
If I look at it now, and I will then eventually pick the favourite one. The one I was going to look at, I also looked at the list and it was already on there, which is
what were you
I was going to go Seasons of Love.
Classic.
Good classic.
That was sung by a group of my friends at my wedding. So
amazing.
That's why that's in
wow.
there.
Yeah, okay.
Stop one-upping my wedding.
So I was sort of having a think about a few. Not While I'm Around from Sweeney Todd.
Love that song.
Till I Hear You Sing. Love Never Dies. I do love that song.
Just like say Not While I'm Around is also on my list.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Well, good. So the one I eventually went for, it was a musical I was involved in when I was at university, and it's the very sort of closing number of Act 2. It's the sort of moral of the story comes out, I suppose. So I'll go with Children Will Listen from Into the Woods.
Oh, yes.
And if I'm going to be picky, I'll go for the Bernadette Peters version.
Okay.
In French, no.
So they've just killed the giant that comes down from the beanstalk. The baker has lost his wife, unfortunately, and he's trying to calm his child. And the Wicked Witch, which has now become the Good Witch, is telling him the story that children will listen. Careful what you're saying to children, because they are the future, and what you teach to them now will have an impact later down the line. So it's that nice little moral at the end of the story. But Bernadette Peters' version of it is just fantastic. And it starts off nice and low, and then comes up to a big crescendo. And it was a fantastic production that I was involved in whilst across. And I always sort of get tingles when I hear that song.
It is those songs that you just, and I think it's something you don't get from a lot of other things. The musical theatre, good musical theatre, is that feeling of just being almost out of body experience. Just punches you right in the gut.
Chills and the hair stand up in your arms. Yeah.
And you're just fully focused in.
Yeah.
Although I feel like you did a lot more of a lead in than I did. I'm just there going, oh, they're all going bang, bang, bang. And then you're there, it's a really moral story about how if you tell children this, I'm like,
Spot the lawyer in the room.
Well, I am also a lawyer. That's the problem.
Okay.
We're going to cut that cut out.
Okay, well that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So we've actually had quite a theatre packed month actually. In recently, obviously with the lockdowns, it kind of pushed things backwards a bit, and they came sort of quick and fast on top of each other. So we've had, as we mentioned earlier on, we've had The Wizard of Oz, we've had To Kill a Mockingbird. Also, the National Theatre Collection's Isle of Man team had their performance of Windrush Generations up at the Youth Arts Centre, which was fabulous, by the way. And I wish them all the very best of the luck with that competition. I hope
definitely.
they do very, very well. Peel Looney Pants also had their adult pantomime Cinders the other week, and that seemed to go down very well as well. I've spoken to a few people that went, and they said they had a fantastic time. Probably far too much fun for a pantomime, really, as grown adults. And then also just in the last few days, we've also had Hello Little People's production of The Twits, which is brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
And you were involved backstage on that as well.
I was the stage manager and the deputy stage manager for that show, and it was fantastic. And I saw Chloe and Michelle earlier today actually, and they're still completely knackered. And,
yes,
I think they've slept for about 36 hours, and the energy and enthusiasm that the two of them had throughout that show and throughout the entire run was fantastic, and the atmosphere backstage was just electric. Everyone was so sort of excited and happy to be there. and how the two of them managed to do everything that they did.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
it's amazing.
they've done an amazing job with, in such a short period of time to set that group up. I mean, if we can have half the success and that they have, and then I think we're laughing.
I mean, they were the same. They literally met over an ice cream in Peel, and that's how Hello Little People was born. So let's hope you guys have as much luck as they have. The twits though, it was fantastic. It was such a simple, basic set as well, and then but then everything was there from the trunk which they came up out of, and the costumes were so cleverly done as well. Yeah, and all the different bits and pieces that they brought to be each of the different characters.
And then sort of the puppets and props as well. Yeah. There's the birds on the end of a broomstick. And it was obvious that it was on the end of a broomstick, but it just worked. And the Mugglewumps and the roly-poly bird.
The roly-poly bird was fantastic.
Maybe that would be my dream role, if I could be the roly-poly bird.
Can
I change my answer?
No.
The costumes were brilliant, and just the little tricks that they were playing on one another. It's a fantastic story. But their staging of it was brilliant.
Yeah, I saw it on the Saturday afternoon, and my two kids absolutely, they were enthralled the whole way through. And then we'd been to Pride beforehand. We went into the theatre, and went back to Pride afterwards, and then we saw the pair of them having come out with about half an hour to go between each show, desperately trying to get some food before going back in again. But I think the queues were against them in that one, because it was so well attended, the Pride event there on Saturday.
Which is amazing. I think to see that and the response from the Ireland public, and it's just
we jumped in at the end of that show that night, and we thought, we'll just go for a quick beverage. So again, that was nice. It was all of the crew and all of the cast, and we all went next door and saw out the night there. And I think sort of midnight before most of us got home, which a couple of sore heads for the Sunday matinee.
You didn't do a Peter Old tour, did you? Where someone had to come and run and say, "You're on now. You're on. Get out of the pub."
Okay, looking forward then, we've got a couple of bits and pieces that are coming up over the next month or two. A lot of dance shows. There's the Academy of Dance. They're having an evening of dance at the Gaiety on the 2nd and 3rd of July. The Service Players are then in the Gaiety with Marion, or the True Tale of Robin Hood, from the 8th to the 10th of July at the Gaiety. Then Dancers Bar are in doing Snow White at the Gaiety on the 17th of July. And then we've got Taylorian Productions in from the 7th to the 14th of August performing A Chorus Line. But also, I've just noticed this week that on the Sunday night, I'm guessing obviously they're not doing a production of A Chorus Line because they're having another Sunday night at the Gaiety. So there's a bit of a
variety
night. And I believe this time round they're focusing on their junior company, because obviously A Chorus Line is pretty much, well, it is entirely an adult company show. Yep. So although the evening show then is going to be concentrated around the junior company, there are going to be some guest appearances from some well-known adults along the way. So that's going to be interesting. Right, okay. So let's have a quick recap then. So Parodos Theatre Company, you're putting on Much Ado About Nothing somewhere around Easter next year.
Yeah.
Auditions? We get an idea for auditions yet?
We will come to them. So what we've decided to do, I think, for our first show is, before we wanted to actually release it to the world, again, we wanted to sort of see if there were people who might be interested, rather than announcing this and then nobody signing up at all. So we've spoken to a few people, and we've got a few more people to speak to who will hopefully want to get involved. But what I would say is, anybody who would like to be involved in any way, shape or form, whether that be on stage, backstage, I see a hand there. Doing whatever they might want to is get in touch, because we're more than happy to work with lots of different people, and people who have perhaps never been involved in theatre before, and want to learn a little bit of technical theatre, or want to have their first experience. Then get in touch, and if there's the interest, then we'll look to open it up a bit wider.
And I think part of what we really wanted to do with this company is to give local actors that opportunity who haven't had the chance to do plays like this. So if anybody's interested, or just wants to chat, to be honest, to start with, and say, well, what is it you're doing? And I have always thought about doing this, but what do you think? And we can talk through what we're doing and how we're doing it. But definitely send us an email, express interest in what you wanted to do. If you want to be in the show, it's not. We're not saying we're not doing auditions or anything like that,
Yeah.
we will listen and see everybody who we possibly can, because we want, the main thing with this is it's not a, cronies club or anything like that. It is, we want the best people at the best time, because the approach that we're taking is it's neither a cronies club nor is it a social committee. We want to do professional plays the best that we can to showcase the best talent for the best roles on the island. And to do that, I think that you've got to kind of have a mix of both, really, to start with, in terms of tapping up people who you think, well, listen, we think you'd be good for this, come and have a read or talk it out, and then to find the diamond in the rough, or the people who haven't done something for ages or haven't done something at all, who's coming in, oh, can I read for this? I'm really interested in playing this part. We go, okay, fine, let's hear you, and they do it, and you knock your socks off, and that's what I would love to see that. So anybody who's interested from the front, from being on stage, but also anyone who is interested from the production side, I think Alex is happy to take you under his wing. And I definitely have that's the beauty of our company, is that we have this double header where I can kind of go, oh yeah, I know, some lingo of actors, and then Alex, but as soon as somebody says, you've got a wash, what do you want to do with this wash, and here's 4 shotgun mics, and so we do, I go, I just turn off, I don't know, just tell me where to stand. Yes, show me the words and tell me where to stand, and I'll go over there, and then Alex just spews out all the language and knows what he's doing, so I just go, wheel him out.
And I think just a quick sort of shameless plug then of how people get in touch with us.
Yeah, that was going to be next. How do we get in touch?
So, social media, we've all got it's the same handle for everything, so it's Parodos Theatre, so facebook.com/Parodos Theatre, into instagram.com/Parodos Theatre. And then we've got the website, parodostheatre.im. And then for emailing, it's info@parodostheatre.im.
And just a reminder, Parodos is spelled Parodos.
Yes. Charlie has to say this. Charlie has to say this continuously because it took him a long time to remember himself.
Don't tell them why I'm saying it.
Well, what we'll do then to help people out then is we'll put all the links through on our Facebook page when we've issued it, so we can send the link through for people as well that way.
That'd be brilliant.
Great. Well, guys, thank you very much for coming along and
chatting,
and we wish you all the best of luck.
Fabulous.
And maybe close to the time we'll come back and you'll tell us all about the wonderful production and Much Ado About Nothing.
Yes, the amazing performance that you've done.
Yes. Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
And with that, we bring episode 24 to a close. Thanks once again to Alex and Charlie for joining me here in the studio and telling me all about Parodos Theatre Company and their upcoming planned production of Much Ado About Nothing. Remember to like and follow our social media pages to get notifications of upcoming episodes and events. Don't forget to check out our Spotify playlist by searching for Manx Theatre Podcast. If you have any events that you'd like us to talk about or promote in a future episode, you can contact us through our social media accounts or by email to manxtheatrepodcast@gmail.com. All that remains is for me to say thanks for listening, and I hope you join me again next time on the Manx Theatre Podcast. I've been Neil Callin. Goodbye.
The Manx Theatre Podcast, taking a look behind the scenes of Manx Theatre.
And happier than actors alive for me.